Welcome! My name is Kelly Anderson, and this is Fanimated, an animation fan podcast where we get a chance to geek out about our favorite animated media. We are continuing our second anniversary celebration this week and all month long with double the episodes, exciting gifts for patrons at patreon.com/Fanimated, and a giveaway on our Instagram at Fanimated Podcast. Also, do not forget that our second anniversary live stream party will be happening on September 23rd at 7 p.m. Central over on our YouTube channel. Now, today, Emma Martin is back with me to discuss the 2012 Avatar: The Last Airbender sequel series, The Legend of Korra. From our favorite aspects to its biggest faults, we have so much to discuss about this show. So spoiler warning for The Legend of Korra, and let's get started and let's get animated. Oh my gosh, the last time you were on was the top 10 anime openings.
I feel like I'm on so many episodes.
You are, and we recorded that episode, that top 10 anime episode, like in May or June or something.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. That has been a long time. And we also recorded Airbender, I feel like.
Right. Did we record Airbender after we recorded top 10? I feel like we might have. And then I held on to that top 10 episode.
It doesn't feel like that long because we keep in touch, but like, you know.
Right, we keep in touch, but also, I mean, most of our conversations are basically a podcast recording anyway.
Yeah, right. So true.
I think we're just into the episode. This is the episode.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Emma is here with me again.
That's me.
Welcome back on the show.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Earlier this year, as we were discussing, we talked about Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is one of my favorite Fanimated episodes now.
It's one of the greatest shows out there, so.
Oh, well, yeah. Tis true. So, of course, now that The Legend of Korra is on Netflix, we also had to snag up that opportunity to talk about The Legend of Korra. So here we are. Get ready. We're here. We're ready. Give me in 5 words or less your overall reactions to The Legend of Korra.
First time through or second time?
Ooh, good question. This time through. Cliffhanger.
Intense. Emotional. Overwhelming. Interesting.
I like it. A good mix of things.
Yes, indeed. That's what I tried for. It really is a mixed bag of things.
It is. I would say inventive, scattered. Korra is dumb. That's pretty intense, but I just mean Korra as a character does not have any character growth until season 4, and it frustrates me.
That's understandable. Yep. We'll get to that.
All right, so those are brief reactions. We'll get into why we say those things more in a minute. But a quick synopsis for those who don't know what The Legend of Korra is. It is the sequel series to the classic Avatar: The Last Airbender series. It follows the Avatar after Aang in the cycle, which is Korra. She is from the Southern Water Tribe, and she is the opposite of Aang in every way.
Yes, indeed.
She is an extremely talented bender in all sorts. She is very aggressive. She embraces her role as the Avatar in a way that Aang, took a long time to get to. And she and her friends...
Team Avatar,
the new Team Avatar, consisting of Mako, Bolin, and later Asami, save the world from various threats. So unlike there are many differences of Avatar: The Last Airbender and Korra that we will get into, but one of them is that Instead of fighting one long continuous battle, it's actually more like The Legend of Korra is like every single season is a new problem they have to solve.
And a new enemy.
Exactly. A new antagonist for the story. But you're in this new world. It's a new world that Aang and Zuko, created. They've founded this Republic City, which is basically New York, and it's much more like 1920s vibe. So instead of that, like in Avatar: Last Airbender, you have like this Western, like travel across the country kind of feel. This is like 1920s gangsta style almost.
Yes. There's a lot of World War II vibes going on, and you'll see that throughout the setting.
Yep, I would agree with that too. And so it's very, very different in a lot of ways. And just about Korra and her friends, and Korra becoming a better avatar, and the world changing. That's a very overview synopsis, because every single season is so incredibly different.
Right.
So the show came out in 2012 and ran through like 2014, something like that. Do you remember the first time that you watched this? Did you watch it as it was coming out?
I did not. So
Okay.
I watched it right after I watched Avatar: The Last Airbender for the first time. And you introduced that to me in college. So I think that was like maybe my junior or senior year. I'm not really sure. So it was 2016, 2017, somewhere in that range. But I do remember that shortly after I finished that series and was so sad that it was over, you had recommended Legend of Korra to me because it was the spin-off series. And so that was my first interaction with that. And I mean, after like ending with the season finale of Avatar, and you're just like broken and weeping, but also like super joyful, you're like,
Yeah.
I watched the show and I'm like, what is this? Like, come on. Like, where's my Avatar? This is not it. Like, what is this world? I don't know this place.
Yeah.
And I was very upset, but I still watched the whole thing for the sake of the series and the characters, especially like all the people who were characters in Avatar, like to see them again is precious time. However,
Yes.
this time around when it came on Netflix and I gave it a rewatch because we were doing the podcast, I will admit I fell in love with it. I really had a good time. Like, yes, it is not Avatar, that's for sure, but as like a standalone show, like, I really enjoyed it. And I gotta admit, I watched the finale today, actually, this morning. And I was tearing up. Like, it was really well done. Like,
Aww.
we will go into the things that we didn't like about it and the things we do like about it, of course. But, like, overall, the second time around, I was like, wow, that was really good. I like that. So, that's what I have to say.
I couldn't agree with you more, Emma. The second time around, it's so much better.
So much better.
I think I had the same problem that you did. A little different, though, because I, growing up with Avatar: Last Airbender, it had been a long time since I'd watched Avatar. And when, I watched The Legend of Korra as it was coming out because, you know me, I'm just like, I was in it. And we were so excited. I say we as like the fandom. I'm making general broad statements that does not apply to everybody, but in general, it's like, oh my goodness, it's from the same creators. They're coming back to the world of Avatar. We cannot wait. We're so excited. And then it comes out and it's like, okay.
Where's Avatar?
Where's Avatar?
Where's
it? It's unfortunate, but true that it is a sequel series, which means it's going to be compared to its original. I say unfortunate because straight off the bat, it's not Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's just not. It does not have the same heart and soul, and we'll go into that.
It's a completely different world.
The world is different. The characters are different. You cannot go into it with, and this is what I tell people who are coming off of Avatar and want to watch The Legend of Korra. I think it's a phenomenal show, but you cannot go into it with the expectation that it's going to be Avatar, because it is not.
And if you do, that's where you get disappointed, which is what Kelly and I experienced the first time around.
Exactly. So I watched through I've still watched every new episode as it came out, because I was still like a fan,
Right.
And I learned to love some of the characters as we went along, but it was still just disappointing because it wasn't the same. But there's a lot to love about the show, and that's why coming back the second time, I was like, wow, like I really love this inventive world that they created. I really love a lot of these characters, and it's not the same, but I really love it, and it's really enjoyable, and it's not as high caliber as Avatar: Last Airbender, but it's still really good.
I would agree. So let's talk about some of the differences between the show and ATLA that we liked and disliked.
Well, I'll just say right off the bat, obviously the thing I don't like about it is the fact that obviously it's not about the same characters. You've spent 3 seasons loving, the original Avatar, Team Avatar, and you come into The Legend of Korra, and I almost would rather, you know what? Here's the truth. I would rather this have happened to the next Avatar. So not the Avatar after Aang, the one after that, like the one after Korra,
Sure.
if there was one. Because then this is kind of sad maybe, but everyone would be dead and it would just start fresh.
The brutal truth right there.
The brutal
folks.
truth. It almost hurts more to see all these characters older, and I personally, I think not represented well. And it like teases you with the nostalgia and then like rips it away. So then you're even more confused. You're like, this isn't Avatar, but then they keep bringing back Avatar elements, and I'm like, I don't know how much I actually want that.
Yeah, it's hard to see the characters you love as different people, and like your expectations of them as older people is kind of dropped. Granted, like, we can't expect everybody to be perfect, but this is a show, dang it. They can make them perfect. Anyway, side tangent there. But something that disappointed me about the series compared to the ATLA series is that, as you said, it is scattered. Like, there's a lot of different plots happening and lots of different enemies all at once. And this is in like a span of 3 years. So it's just like a lot happening at once.
Yeah.
And it was just very frustrating because in the midst of those plots, you're dealing with characters who are very either wishy-washy or like they flip the switch so fast. Like, for example, you talked about Korra and how you think she's dumb. And this is because, folks, she's very hot-headed. She's very rash. Like, she's like all about saving the world. And then she just does something dumb. And you're like, whoa, just take a breath.
Yes.
Let's just settle down. But no, that's not how Korra functions.
No.
Or then you have characters like Mako, who, guys, I adore that kind of character. But here's the thing. He makes me frustrated too, because he just does not know what he wants and is not sincere about his actions always. And so it's just little things like this where I'm like, come on, guys, seriously? So it's just a little frustrating to follow their journeys.
Here's where it's at. And this, I should have led with this, and here we go. Even though the Team Avatar in The Legend of Korra, they're older, the characters are older than the Team Avatar in Airbender, they're more immature.
Yes.
They're older, they're teenagers, but they're way more immature than Aang, and he was 12.
Right. They're trying to prove themselves in multiple different ways. But you would think that by this time they would have gotten over that phase. Like, obviously, everybody's still learning in their journey. But, like, yeah, the kids, as young as they were, Aang and Katara and Sokka, they, like, yeah, were not nearly this angsty.
No. They're so angsty. And like you said, they just need to like take a chill pill for a second, please.
Just for a second. But you know, I wonder if part of that is the impact of the world they live in. Because if you think about it, like, you know, people got married a lot younger, like 100 years ago, than they do today. And
that's true.
Because the world is different, like how, like whether it's our cultural views or whether it's just the pace of our society. And so, like, that could be a big factor.
I mean, people don't realize how new history actually is. My mother, she did not have running water in her household when she was really little. Like, that, history is new. Things are always changing drastically.
Right. Which is something that, like, shocked me when I first started watching Legend of Korra, was I was like, wow. Like, okay, so let's say Aang died around 85, 90 years of age, if he had a good, long, old life or whatever.
Yes.
Like, wow, the world has transformed a lot in those, like, 80-plus years. Like, this is a modern city. And for me, I was shocked and a little startled because I was like, would it really, like, be this modern within 100 years time or whatever? But then I think about, like, well, okay, 1900s to 2000s, a lot of things happened and a lot of inventions and whatnot happened. So I don't know. It just kind of shocked my system. I was like, wait a minute. Why are we in a modern city? Like, they wouldn't be like this far advanced.
And the world and the setting is one of those things that I really, really disliked, like you said, when I first watched it. And now it's into my list of things that I love about The Legend of Korra, because I think it is so beautiful and, like I said, inventive. Like, that's my biggest word for it. They really took the elements, pardon the pun, of Avatar: The Last Airbender and expanded on them and grew. Like, what does a society look like once metal bending has been invented? You know?
Right. Or lightning bending.
Yeah. Like, and, you know, granted, I feel like part of the reason they have vehicles is just so that they can have car chases, because that's one of my notes, is that there's a car chase in like every other episode.
You're right.
These writers like car chases. But, like, I think it's really fascinating, really cool.
It is.
So, were there any other things that you really didn't like that we have to address? I will say for me, one more thing, like we already had kind of mentioned it, but I just want to make sure it's clear. I do not like the incoherent plot. I like having one long continuous story like in Avatar: Last Airbender, and I don't really like it when it's all split up into a different story every season. I feel like it removes possibilities, you know, and it doesn't feel as intense. Even though they definitely kept ramping up the stakes, it just keeps ramping up, and you're like, can it get any higher? Yes, it can. But it is also, I will admit, probably hard to follow, you know, the Fire Lord who's after the entire world. Like, none of the antagonists feel real compared to the Fire Lord Ozai.
Right. I mean, I guess the most real one would be the spirit of Vato, who is the spirit of evil. Because, like, bringing that into the world is chaos, but it didn't feel real because, like, so much of that battle was in the spirit world where a majority of people are not. So it was very disconnected. So, yeah, it was... The thing about the plot, it is just so intense the whole time. I mean, it's a fast-moving show. Like, these episodes are like 20 minutes, and there's only like 12 episodes per season. So it's very quick, very fast-paced, and like they're constantly giving a new enemy. So you're like, wow, the Avatar really doesn't get a break.
There are no filler episodes. Like, they didn't have time for filler episodes. It's go, go, go.
Oh, except for like in season 4, there's one called Memories.
Remembrances. I have a note about that. I
Yes.
have a note about that. Let's talk about that when we get to the season 4, because I have some things to say.
Will do.
That's a complete filler episode. I skipped it. I completely skipped it the second time watching it.
I almost did, but I watched it anyway.
I was like, I don't have time for this.
Of course you did. Oh.
Okay, now that we got that all out of our system, we can shake it off, shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off. Feeling better now. Okay, let's address how this show is actually really amazing, okay? Because I loved watching it. It was so much fun to watch through again. I love these characters, and I just, it's great.
It's a love-hate relationship with the characters. Like, I love them so much, but they frustrate me. So maybe they're like my children. They're like, oh, I love you so much, but, oh, don't do that. Like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Korra's dumb, but I love her.
Right. Well, she is like, oh my gosh. I mean, I wrote down like the first quote of the whole show, or one of the first one was, she is strong, but lacks constraint. Don't do anything rash. Like, those are the first couple quotes I took down. And that's just like Korra right there.
Korra is like, I mean, she's introduced by like busting down the wall in her house and saying, I'm the Avatar. And then she starts firebending and earthbending and waterbending. Like, she is naturally inclined to the elements, whereas like Aang had to try like really hard. And then Korra has a hard time connecting spiritually and connecting with air, because her personality is the opposite of air. But yeah, it really takes, I think, until season 4 for her to actually learn to calm down. Because there's even like a line in season 4, one of the Beifongs is asking her, you know, aren't you going to go and fight? And Korra goes, that used to be what I would do, but actually I'm going to do this. And I was like, there it is. Character development, finally.
Finally.
She's taking a breath and thinking about her actions, how they affect others.
Doesn't happen till like season 4, folks, so.
Yep. She causes more problems in her own story than any of the antagonists.
Yes, because she's just so quick to act. I mean, she always talks about how ready she is to learn and help out, but her actions speak otherwise. Yeah. She's just too quick to the punch.
Although I will say the things that I love about her, like, I love that she is super strong. Like, she's like a woman main character. First of all, they have a female main character for a show that's meant for both girls and boys. So this is a show that they were actually like, you know, execs or whoever is making those fancy decisions was like, we don't think that she should be a girl because we want boys to watch this too. And then they showed it to testing, you know, screens, and then the boys were like, we don't care, she's awesome. And it's like, thank you. So right then and there, Korra is like another step in that little, you know, the ladder going up for feminist equality in representation. So that's great.
Yeah, like there's even an episode where like a character's like, wow, you're really muscular for a woman.
Yes. And it's like, yeah, she is. Oh.
Yeah, get it. Okay, can we talk about the sweetest thing on Earth, which is Bolin?
I was gonna say my favorite character. Okay, right. He is my favorite character of the main gang of Team Avatar. It's Bolin, probably. Like, I love Asami, don't get me wrong, but like Bolin is where it's at.
Yes, Bolin is just the biggest sweetheart ever. He's so supportive of the whole group, so encouraging. He's always so kind. Like, I just want the best for him, and yet his heart is broken or he's pushed around, and you're just like, Bolin, you rock, literally. So just stick to it. Also, I will say, like, okay, sorry to you earthbenders out there, but like, earthbending never was really like something that I was like, ooh, that's super cool. Like, it's cool, but it's not as like, it's not fire. Let's be honest. And, and
Are you connecting your love of Zuko to your love of the element
Okay,
fire?
Here's the thing. I am a firebender, guys, so just watch out.
Yeah.
Anyway, but when Bolin earthbends, I'm like, wow. Oh my gosh. Like, which we'll definitely have to discuss animation-wise with the bending. So
for
cool.
sure.
But Bolin's awesome.
Bolin, is the earthbender. He is super awesome. He's just so kind. And honestly, like, he can be kind of, it's interesting because he can be kind of naive in a lot of ways, but he's actually still more mature than the rest of them, I would.
Right. I don't know how it works, but it works.
Yeah. Like he's more, I guess what it is he's more optimistic. He's more optimistic, and I think that equates to naivete sometimes, but for the most part, it's like, no, he's actually, he's always doing things that are going to help other people. Like, he's not self-serving in any way, and he wants the best out of everybody, and he expects that. And oh man, Bolin. And it's interesting because he's kind of the quote-unquote comedic character of the group, and maybe that's why I love him, because Sokka is my favorite of original Team Avatar. I'm just all for those funny guys. But like, even despite that, like, he's more than just the comedic character, and I'm always appreciative of that.
What made me a little sad was that in season 2, I really felt like Bolin became a very supportive character. Whereas, like, before, like, in season 1, he was, pretty prominent because it was him, Mako, and Korra taking on people. And so that made me a little sad because I was like, no, Bolin's such a great character. Like, he shouldn't, like, and he just felt, like, so on the side throughout season 2. But I'm glad that they kind of brought him back later, because that made me a little sad, because it was like, he is one of the greatest characters, one of the most stable characters in this show. Like, let's keep him, please.
Truly, I agree. So let's talk about his brother. His brother, Mako, is a firebender, which is really cool. Another thing about this world is that, there's more, diverse, I guess, families. And so for Mako and Bolin, like, you have siblings, but they bend different elements, which I think is really cool. So Mako is a firebender.
Right. And also something else that Mako does is lightning bending. So that's more like normal. And not to mention, before we get too far, Bolin, he also can lava bend.
Oh, so
that's
when
epic.
Bolin lava bends, I just
holy crap. But yeah, Mako is amazing. Once again, he's like, it's a love-hate relationship, guys. Like, he makes me so mad, especially with his relationships. He's so wishy-washy, and I just want to punch him in the face. But he is, like, really smart, and, like, I mean, he's a detective, and he's just got great instincts, and, like, his firebending is sweet. It's so fun to watch. But he just is really a leader and holds the team together.
Yeah, he is. He is
assertive on the battlefield, but not in relationships. The greatest battlefield of all time.
Oh, Emma!
Yes.
Dropping truths here.
I do what I can.
Yes, he is assertive. Like, he knows some things, but then he can assess a situation and take action and lead people, but then put him in a relationship, and it's like he doesn't know which way is up. Like, he doesn't understand anything. Oh man, it's so frustrating.
Very frustrating.
But he is like the more, where Bolin is like crazy kooky, but Mako is much more serious.
Not a very emotional person.
Yes, not at all. And they I think they really delve into, like, they just let that be more, I think, later on, when he's like really, really like stiff about everything. And I almost like that more, like, lean into that part of him, of like, he doesn't know what to do, like, emotionally. And I think it's hilarious.
All right. And then lastly, we've got Asami.
Asami.
What a just Oh my gosh, she's just amazing.
So amazing. She's a non-bender, but she's so intelligent. Her father created like all the, this technology, all the automobiles, the Sato mobiles, and
he owns Future Industries, which produces all these products.
Exactly. So she is also really intelligent and she's really capable. She's a non-bender, but she uses this like glove that has electricity, and she does like, so she's a super BA fighter, but also is like more of a politician than any of them, even the Avatar. So
she's very collected.
Yes, she's she's put together. Like, she knows how to, run her business. She's a businesswoman, and she like gets stuff done.
She gets stuff done, but she's not like mean or aggressive about it. She's a very compassionate person, but she knows how to like get a team to make something happen. I love that she's an inventor. Like, there's like an episode where they're stuck out in the desert, and like out of a broken big ship, they like put together a small little ship. And I'm just like, wow, this girl is crazy smart. Like, she can like survive anywhere because she just knows how to make things work. And she is assertive in relationships. She is assertive.
She knows what she wants.
Yes, she does. Take a lesson, Mako.
Oh, Mako. What a turd. So anyway, that's our main Team Avatar, main cast of characters. There are lots of characters in this show. Again, it's 4 seasons long, so they introduce lots of people. But who are some of your other favorites?
Well, we can't not talk about Aang's family in general.
Yes.
So
okay, these Airbender kids are my everything, and I love them so much.
They are what keep us going. Like, I am in this show for them and their character development. Like, oh my goodness. Like, okay, so Tenzin is Aang and Katara's youngest son, and he is the only Airbender currently that was born from them, and then he has 3 kids, a 4th one on the way, and they are all airbenders. So he's kind of got this pressure that he's experienced through his childhood because he is the only one who had airbending. So he's like holding up the Air Nation, and like all the dependence is kind of on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Whereas Aang's other children, one's a waterbender and one is a non-bender. So he just feels a little extra pressure. But I just love Tenzin. He's very like stubborn and pretty serious as well. Very dad figure.
Yes, he is the epitome of dad.
Yes, like I won't take this. Like, go to your room. Like, just like very disciplined, but like he's a total softie underneath. Like,
it is true.
Like, he treats Korra like his own daughter. It's so sweet.
Yes, it's one of my favorite parts about the show is the relationship between Tenzin and Korra. It's that mentorship relationship. And yeah, he cares about Korra just as much as he cares about his own daughters. Like, it's so sweet and it's so wonderful. And I love Tenzin's arc too, of like, feeling that pressure and coming to terms more with his siblings, and just like, he even has character development, and it's so great.
Right. That's one of my favorite little arcs in the story, is the relationship between him and his siblings and how they, compare their childhoods and reconcile together. It's one of my favorites.
Yes.
But also in the Aang family, I do have to mention, I love Jinora.
Yeah, there it is.
And she is just such a boss. She's the oldest of Tenzin's children, and she is very in tune with the spiritual world, and she's just such a sweetie and very powerful for her age.
Yes. Outside of Team Avatar, Jinora is my favorite character in this show. She is so capable, and she's so strong, and like compared to Team Avatar, she is younger, but like, compared to Avatar Last Airbender, she's like that age. She's young.
And more mature.
And way more mature. Again, yeah, it's like the kids. The kids in this world are more mature than the teenagers and the adults. A little. But I love her connection to the spirit world and to spirits, and she is absolutely vital to Korra's progress, season 2 and beyond. Like, without her, the show would not exist.
Right. Yeah, she helps defeat one of the big enemies. Like, she has to be there.
Yeah. And I will also say, and we'll get to ships later, but Kai!
Oh my gosh, I knew you were going to say that. I was like, I love Kai.
Kai! I also love Kai. And I love Kai, too, because not just because of Jinora, but also because he's this kid and he's like, you know, on his own, he's on the streets. And Mako and Bolin, like, grew up on the streets, too, and, like, understand that life. And so they kind of, like, take him under their wing and, like, mentor him a little. And I just love that. It's so cute.
So cute. Also, I have a note about that because Bolin and Mako as older brothers, like their approaches is so delightful to me. Where like, you know, Bolin is very like, it's okay, buddy, you got this. We're here for you. Like he's super supportive and encouraging. And Mako's just like, get your stuff together. Come on. Like, and just like a lot more rough. So funny to watch.
Right. And is like, I'm watching you.
Yeah, I'm watching you, kid. And then when he does something good for once, he's like, You done good, kid. You done good. So right. Cute. But Kai
minimal
is so
praise.
Yes. It's just so funny to see
Kai.
The difference.
I also want to highlight Lin Beifong.
Yes. We also get Toph's family. That's exciting.
Uh-huh. And Lin is just super BA, and she's a metal bender, and she's like the head.
The chief.
The chief, thank you. I was going to say, like, sheriff, and I was like, that's not...
That's not right.
She's the chief of police, and because all the police are all metal benders, and it's super cool, and they just, like, fly around Spider-Man style with their, you know, metal
whips.
Yeah, whatever, wire things. And Lin is, like... She will go outside of the law to do what is right. And she is like super awesome. I love her.
Yes. I also love her relationship with Tenzin. They used to date. They did not work out for them. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. They're okay with it. But I love that they're friends and that they help each other out. It's so fun. It's
so good. It's so, so good. And the whole Beifong family that you meet eventually, like Lin has a half sister and she has a ton of kids too. And so they're a riot. It's so fun.
Yes. And very much like their mother. That's for sure.
They're all just stubborn.
Yes. Agreed. We can't forget to just briefly note Varric and Julie.
Oh my gosh.
They're pretty essential.
They're so essential. Varric is funny because I was talking to my brother-in-law and he hates Varric. They're watching it for the first time, and and Justin tells me, he's like, I'm so annoyed by Varric. And I'm like, dude, Varric is one of my favorite characters. He's hilarious. Like, he is the wild card. He is like completely chaotic. Yes. Like yes. He does what interests him most of the time, and that's not always a good thing. And he is just all over the place, and he's hilarious. He's this inventor, businessman, like he does everything, and then his assistant is Julie, and they're both just crazy.
And his classic line to Julie is do the thing.
Julie, do the thing. And then she'll do whatever.
Knows. Yep,
she knows.
Exactly.
She's the best assistant.
She is the best assistant.
Oh, man. But Varric is great. The show gets better when he's around.
Yes. He's got one of those voices that is like the typical like salesman voice. Like, I got to tell you about my product that I got here today. And like, he just sells it like crazy. And it's just so funny. I love it because like when I first watched the show, I was just like, I feel like I should not like you because you technically did something that was bad. But, like, you as a person aren't that bad.
Exactly. It's a little confusing. He lives in the gray area of he's always just on the verge of, like, being a really, really in the wrong place. But he, like, slips out of it. Like, and it's interesting because he's such an eccentric person. And in this show, another difference between Avatar and Korra is that there is a little bit of like stuff about royalty and things, but it's mostly like the political. There are lots more like political intricacies, and like there's more about these big corporations and businesses and these other things going on. Because we get stuff with like the Northern Water Tribe and Southern Water Tribe Civil War. We got non-bender equal rights. We have dictatorship. Like it's all very
real.
There's just it's all very real, and there's a lot of stuff going on. And Varric is like one of those characters that's like basically a billionaire and like is playing the game, the political game, for the sake of money, and it's really fascinating to watch him do that. And with that, now that I've like hinted on all the crazy stuff that happens in every single season, let's talk about the plot, the crazy, incoherent, scattered mess that it is. And my first question for you, and I asked this to my Instagram too, at Fanimated Podcast, which season is your favorite? While you're thinking, I'll tell you the results of that poll on Instagram. And it's pretty crazy. I did not expect it, but it was almost all equal, except for season 4. But most of it was equal. There was no dominant winner. Like usually there's out of 4 options, usually there's a pretty dominant winner, but it was pretty equal all the way around, which I thought was fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, because like season 4 was really good to me, but it wasn't my favorite.
Interesting.
And I think it was because like I couldn't understand fully who Korra was anymore. I mean, she was figuring that out herself. So
true.
There was just some gray area there. But I really think that season 3 is one of my favorites because I really love the incorporation of like the Air Nation coming back to life.
Yes.
Like that's super exciting, and their adventures like to go find all these people while also facing these 4 individuals who are bending all the elements. Like I don't think that their cause was as strong like as an enemy, but I liked the overall idea of the Air Nation coming back to life, so I think that's why I like season 3. Otherwise season 1, but I'm gonna go with season 3.
All right. Yeah, that's solid pick. I don't feel like there's a wrong answer. It's because everyone varies so much. I would say like my initial reaction like before I started watching it was season 1 because like it's still fresh and new. It's all one place, one cohesive, like it's in Republic City and this thing is happening and Korra is learning how to do bend air. But then I watched through all of them and I was like, actually, I really, I don't know. It's so, even now as I'm talking, it's in between. Because what I love about season 1 is the tournament. Like, I love the bending, pro bending. Oh, I love the pro bending games. But I love season 4 a lot, actually. I am one of those people. Because I like that Korra, like, this is a meme that I saw online, and it's basically, and it was saying that, like, Avatar: The Last Airbender is about Aang, who is a human learning to be an avatar. And The Legend of Korra is about Korra, who is an avatar learning how to be human.
Ooh, that's deep.
It's deep. And I think it's so true. I agree. I think it's true. And at the end of season 3, Korra is really broken down and beaten up, and she's at her lowest point at the beginning of season 4, and the entirety of season 4 is her finally, like, it is her, that last dip in her arc to, like, really stand up and be who she actually is and be herself regardless of being the avatar. And, like, she's so, because her whole life has been, I'm the avatar, and I'm great at it, she can kick butt and it's great. But also she's a human, and also it's kind of that lesson of, like, you are more than your abilities,
Yeah, totally. I would agree with that. And I mean, not only is she growing in the fourth season, like in her compassion towards her enemies. But like, I remember a lot about season 4. Like, she went to Zahir in prison for like advice.
Yeah.
And she, I think she helped her enemy, the dictator, Kuvira, at the end. Like,
yeah,
she definitely like changed.
She matures so much. And even like going to Zahir, that's a good thing to bring up. Like, she had to really humble herself. Like, that takes a lot of humility to like go to the person. It's all about trauma. That last season, that's why I love it, because it's like she has PTSD and she's facing it, and even Zahir helps her do that and helps her find herself again. And I think it's just a beautiful journey, and I like Korra better now that she's more mature.
I think what like probably set me off though was just that the first 3 seasons are so similar in their intensity, and their rhythm, and the season 4 is just so different that it's just like, oh, this isn't quite the same, but it's still good. And I think that's what throws me off.
No, that's fair. I totally see that. It is so different than the other 3, and it takes place like 3 years after the end of season 3. So like, there's a big time gap, and everyone is in different places.
I love everybody growing up.
I know. Aw, they're so cute. But let's go through each season briefly, just really briefly, talk about things we like and don't like. Starting with season 1, and this is interesting as a whole. I'll just mention this now. Like, I always thought that these were just season by season. Like, oh, these seasons are so like, this is a compressed story. I bet they were just getting approved season by season, like for more of the show. And so they probably only wrote it 1 season at a time. But I just recently found out that was not the case at all. And so...
okay.
So the first season, they were only given 12 episodes. So that one was cohesive, and it ended and had a clear ending. And it was done. And then they were given the rest. So it wasn't season by season. It was season 1. They wrote it. They did it. And then it was, here's 3 more seasons. So I still don't understand why they... made every single one different, but they are. And so that's just a little tidbit that I found out. And there was at one point where they were working on 30 episodes at a time. Like, they were working on this all at once. So I don't know why they didn't make it cohesive, but I don't have an answer.
That's wild.
It is wild. It's crazy. Animation progress and process is crazy. So season 1. Let's go to season 1. This was... originally, the original intent was this was going to be it, just season 1. And Korra goes to Republic City. It all takes place mostly in Republic City, unlike the other ones. And the main antagonist is Amon. And honestly, he's a bit of a cult leader, except that he is actually, pressing on a very, very important socioeconomic, political, cultural issue that the entire world has, and that I noticed in Avatar: Last Airbender, and that they clearly are all very ableist. This entire society, this entire world in both shows is ableist, and the non-benders get crap. So here we go. Yeah, basically, I just wanted to say that I think Amon's like, reasons for trying to gain power are like his personal reasons are bad, but also the part of society where he like was using to like gather the people is actually really legit.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because his intentions were like, I mean, he's a waterbender and a bloodbender at that, and so he lied to all the people saying that he was a non-bender. But I did think his means to make it aware that like non-benders are important too was a good cause, because there's lots of non-benders in this world and everybody deserves to be treated equally. However, his methods were not so great, as he's like forcing the benders to have their bending taken away. Like, you shouldn't have to do that. We should all just accept who we are. Oh, this is too real.
Yes. Oh, this season is very like,
I even wrote that in my notes. I was like, this is too real for me.
This is too real. It's all about equality. And you look out the window if you live in the United States of America right now, and you're like, oh, is this real? Yes, it is. I do really like this season. It's one of my favorites because I really do like this story, and I like it addresses something real. I think they didn't quite like fix it necessarily.
No. I mean, Amon was taken down, but it wasn't necessarily a resolved issue at the end.
Yeah, like the civil rights problem was not resolved.
We just assume that things are better now.
I mean, I would hope. But it's interesting because, like, you look back at Avatar Last Airbender, and, I mean, even between, like, you know, Azula and Zuko, it's like, you can just see it more clearly in the Fire Nation culture that it's like, if you're not a bender, like, you cannot, like, climb the ranks of their society. And I think that's true in other nations as well. And in general, it's like, yeah, you have, you know, Mr. Sato, and, you know, he's a prominent figure, and I suppose Varric would be too. But, like, there is a lot of power given to those with the ability to bend, and that's not fair.
Right.
And I should mention too, I just say that Amon is a cult leader because his methods are very, like, there's a point where he's like, I've talked to the spirits and they have given me the ability to take away bending, like as if he's some special person. Like, that is literally verbatim, like, things cult leaders say is like, God has chosen me, I am special, and I will give you, you know, like.
Right.
So
And
that's
I
why
mean,
say that.
his methods too, like, it would be one thing if he said, let's stand up for our rights, but he's just like, let's take down those who are benders. So, yeah.
Exactly.
He's a cult leader.
And I know we've been talking about season 1 for a long time, and we'll get through the other ones faster maybe. But I also want to mention, because it's only in this one season and it makes me sad, is, again, the pro bending. I love the pro bending.
The pro bending is so much fun. So for audience who are listening, it's basically like element bending games. Like, there's a person on each team. There isn't an air team yet because there aren't enough, you know, airbenders yet.
Right.
But you have an earth, a water, and a fire, and they like fight each other. It's really fun. Yeah,
it's kind of like a boxing kind of thing, except you're, you know, 3-on-3. Yeah, and you're trying to push each other across each other's boundary lines. It's super cool and just gives a really fun, like, a B plot, I guess, to everything. And I would go see a pro bending match for sure.
Totally. The end of this season going into the next season also points to the fact that this show is a lot darker than the original Airbender show. I mean, the end of season 1 ends with the Amon character and his brother committing suicide. Like, they go off on a boat and blow their boat up. I was like, holy crap, I forgot about that. Like, that's really dark.
Like, I was watching it this time, and I was looking at it because on Netflix they show the rating in the corner every episode.
Yes, and it says self-harm.
Yeah, PG for self-harm. And I kept thinking, I was like, where in this show is there self-harm? What?
I was same thing. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, okay, I'm looking for it. Where is it?
Where is it? And then it happened, and I was like, oh, right. Tarlok commits murder-suicide. Wow.
Yep. So there's that. Now season 2.
All right, season 2. Let's go.
This was another one of my favorites too. It was a toss-up because so in this season, Korra is trying to get more in tune with the spiritual side of things. And what I love about that is we get to learn about the very first Avatar, and his name is Juan, and how he came to be the Avatar, where everything, like, kind of like their creation story with the lion turtles. And through this process, we learned that the Avatar has a spirit of light inside him, which is called Rava. They joined together because Rava just used to be on her own. And now that they're fused, he's the Avatar, and that's what started the cycle. So at the end of the season, basically, Korra is coming up against the spirit of evil, darkness, Vatu. And we have crazy Unalaq and his family.
Unalaq is a good antagonist. He is manipulative. He gets Korra on his side for a big chunk of the season. And he just wants power, though. Like, he's even brainwashed his kids. He's got these kids, and they're hilarious too.
Desna and Eska.
They're so serious. Yeah, they're so... It's hilarious. I love them so much.
By the way, for fans out there, Eska is played by Aubrey Plaza, who is April in Parks and Rec. So, like, that same personality in this daughter. It's just everything.
It's everything, especially when you add Bolin into the mix.
With their romance. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my God. We'll talk about that more in the ships section. But... yeah, Unalaq is a great villain character, and Vatu is, like, very threatening. And I honestly, I would watch a whole season just about Juan, the first Avatar. I thought those episodes were my favorite. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I loved that story. I loved Juan as a character. Like, he's just, like, interesting, and dynamic, and I loved his journey into the spirit wilds.
I agree. And it's very much, the second season is giving you Civil War vibes. I mean, we've got the Southern Water Tribe and the Northern Water Tribe against each other. And it doesn't help that the two leaders of the tribes are brothers. So there's a lot of conflict and betrayal in that situation going on, making it hard on Korra because her dad is one of the leaders. So it's all very mixed up, and it's hard because she finds Unalaq to be very convincing, and, like, she thinks he's right. So she goes against her dad and follows Unalaq, and then in the end, Unalaq just wants power and throws the world into chaos with the spirit realm. Yay. But
then at the end of the season, we get the merge of the spirit world and the physical world. And it's one of those things that when I originally watched it, I was like, what kind of crap is this? But the second time, I'm like, I know, actually, I do love it. Because, again, you just have to be willing to accept change, which is season 3.
Yes.
Change.
Continue.
Perfect segue. And so now the worlds are connected. The people have to learn how to live with spirits, and not everyone's happy about it because, not everything's going to be the same anymore. And what also happens as a consequence to Korra leaving the spirit portals open is that people start discovering that they have airbending abilities out of nowhere. And which is great because you get to rebuild the air, nation.
Besides just Tenzin and his family trying to make the babies,
Exactly. So it's just a little bit of like, whoa. And then, like you had mentioned earlier, they kind of, this one feels more Avatar Last Airbender because they're going on their little like journey across country, their road trip, to find all of the airbenders and invite them to join the, to train with them and to, learn the ways of the cultural heritage of the air nomad. But it's really fascinating, and I really love that they are like, actually not everyone wants to do that because no one asked for these abilities, and not everyone wants to like leave everything they know and love to join these people and be a part of a culture they know nothing about, Right. I thought that was fascinating.
It is very interesting because they're like Tenzin and the others go around asking them to drop everything to, rebuild the culture. And they're like, no, I kind of like my home life, so I'm just going to stick around here.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel bad for the mom who has the son who's living in the basement.
Yes.
She's like, please take him away.
Yeah. Go do something productive for society. Oh, dear.
Yes.
And then, of course, the other issue is that Zahir, a very a criminal that was after Korra when she was younger. Like they wanted to capture her.
It's a little vague.
And a little vague. But basically, he and his gang were all imprisoned. And he gains airbending now. And so he is able to escape and then free all of the other members of their Red Lotus. So instead of the White Lotus, it's the Red Lotus.
Ooh.
And they go after world leaders and Korra because he believes, for whatever reason, that the natural balanced version of the world is chaotic.
Okay, have fun in that world.
Have fun.
You might die in 30 seconds. Hope that's okay.
Yikes. Yeah. So what do you think of Zahir and his gang of misfits?
Well, I was at first very confused as to who they were. Like, I was like, who are these people? Why are they important? But for them as a team, they work so well together. Like, they're very powerful benders. So there's Zahir, who's now an airbender, and there's a waterbender who is voiced by Grey DeListe, and she voiced Azula. Fun fact. So it was fun to hear that voice. When I heard it again, I was like, oh, it's Grey. It's Grey. So that was fun. And then we've got an earthbender who can also lava bend, so that's sick.
Super.
We've got then a combustion bender, so like the little red dot in the middle of the forehead and causes explosions, which is another dark factor.
Like Sparky Sparky Boom Man.
Sparky Sparky Boom Man, only it's Sparky Sparky Woman.
Yeah.
So they're very intense, and Zahir's battle with Korra at the end is a big catalyst for her trauma because he uses airbending to almost suffocate her, but also she's like tied up in chains that are they're platinum, so she can't bend them, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And they poison her with this metal substance that causes her to go into the avatar state, because basically they want to kill her when she's in an avatar state, and that way
to break the cycle.
The cycle will be broken. So it's really, really dark and intense. But, she obviously prevails with a lot of trauma to deal with, of course. But once again, very, dark things happening. I mean, Combustion Lady, Lynn and Sue. No, it's Sue. She, metal bends, metal around her head just as she's about to send an explosion. We don't see the aftermath, but we all know what happens.
Ooh.
Holy,
yeah.
What?
Yeah. And not to mention this season also, Zahir murders the Earth Queen.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Straight up, you watch her suffocate, and that was on screen, man.
That's true. Yeah. Totally different atmosphere.
Both of those instances, it's like, goodness gracious, what is happening?
And to be fair, the Earth Queen was horrible. But, she doesn't deserve death.
Did not deserve that, no. But, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, she's very annoying.
Yeah.
So, one thing that we kind of passed over that was, I think, either end of season 2, beginning of season 3, you'll have to correct me, but we have Janora's master ceremony.
That's right at the end of season 2. She has proven her worth, and then she becomes a airbending master.
That is a really important point in the story because we get to see her development. And also, wow, that ceremony is so touching. Oh I was so in tears. Just had to briefly mention that before we got too far. But
good, because anything about Janora makes me happy.
Yes.
And then we should mention, too, that going back to Kai, this is where Kai comes into season 3. Because he's one of those people they find that has gained these airbending abilities out of nowhere. And he's using them for nefarious purposes until they come.
Street rat. I know. He is Aladdin.
He's Aladdin. Aw. Kai. He's a good kid.
He is a good kid. He just needs some guidance. And he does get it.
He gets
and
it.
then when we get to season 4 and he's more grown up, wow, he's a great guy.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. So why don't we get there? So,
Yes.
of course, Korra has been in this horrible fight with Zahir, almost died, is dealing with the aftermath of having poison in her. She goes back to the Southern Water Tribe, excuse me, to recoup, but she ends up staying for much, much longer. So season 4 starts 3 years later, and we see, so the main gang here, Mako is now officially a detective, working in Republic City, and now he is a bodyguard for the Earth Prince. We have Bolin, and he is working with Kuvira, who is helping to kind of monitor the Earth Kingdom situation while there is no one on the throne. And then Asami has like built up her business again, and she's being awesome as usual. And then Korra is still, figuring.
She's in recovery.
Healing. She's in recovery, both physically and definitely mentally. Lots of mental. She just needs some therapy, and she gets it. She gets it. She'll get it. So it's been 3 years later, and basically this is all about the control of the Earth Kingdom now that the Queen is dead. And Kuvira does not want to relinquish her power that she has gained, and she is, basically getting all of the states, provinces, what have you, of the Earth Kingdom to pledge their loyalty to her. And she's basically a dictator trying to take over everything.
Yes, she's basically preaching communism, like everything's equal. We will all be on the same page, but we all know what happens there. A dictator rises up in the midst of it. And it's like, sorry guys, it's all or nothing.
Yikes.
Yeah, not a good combo. But I will say, her fiance is voiced by Todd Havercorn, which is one of my favorite voice actors.
Your favorite. That's your favorite.
I just had to note that.
I didn't even know that. What?
Yes.
I didn't notice at all. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. As soon as I hear that voice, I'm like, oh, Todd, it's my Natsu. Like, for those who watch Fairy Tail, it's Natsu.
Okay, now it's like, now that I think of it, I'm going to have to rewatch something with him in it and be like, oh, wow, how did I... Again, I have a horrible ear for this stuff. I don't know why. I can never... I'm just like, oh, of course, it's this character. It's just... Nah, it's the same voice actor. Good catch. Great. Good catch. Well, of course, he's your favorite, so of course you would notice.
How could I not miss his voice?
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah, I think Kuvira is a pretty good antagonist. I think she's pretty threatening, I would say. But, I think, she's a little weak in the respect of, like, her motivations. I just think it's fascinating at the end when, she basically chooses to obliterate her fiancé rather than relinquish her power. Oof, I think that's a really fascinating choice, and one that really is like, whoa. Like, she means business.
Right. Yeah. Totally turns the tide, and you realize that this isn't about equality anymore. Though she might think that, really it's just her in power. And a lot of it is, Korra talks with her, even though she doesn't want to talk at the end in their battle, about where this is all coming from. She was an orphan, and so everything was taken from her, and she wasn't going to let her country be taken away. So it's just very interesting where she's coming from. But I think she could have been stronger. I wrote in my notes while watching this last season, dat mecha suit. It's so big. And it also was a throwback to Voltron days.
Yes.
Because I was like, wait a minute. First of all, does this really fit in this world? Debatable. And wow.
Debatable.
It was very intense. I was like, wow, okay. That's a really big mecha suit.
I will say though, the Legend of Korra was animated by Studio Mir, which is also the
Oh,
studio
yeah.
for
That makes
Voltron
sense.
Legendary Defender.
I was like, the animation looks very similar. So.
Yes, it is. And Studio Mir is top notch.
Lance? Are you around?
Lance. We'll definitely Keith. Keith is my everything.
Split up?
Just Keith, stay with the group.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't help myself. Let's continue.
Well, we will talk about Studio Mir later more. Studio Mir more. There's something. But yeah, mecha suits. Well, now I'm just gonna want to talk about animation with the mecha suits. Let's go into it.
Yes, let's talk about it.
So, this show is 2D, like the original, but better because budget and technology. Oh my gosh! Okay, these are two things I forgot to mention. We were talking about the things we like about this show comparatively. I actually think, obviously the animation is better, in every way. But also the music is better. That hot take. The music is better. But the animation is so phenomenal. Studio Mir has also done Kipo. Yeah. So the animation is so much better, obviously because of time and technology has changed. But also I feel like it probably got a better budget because they knew it was going to be worth it. Mm-hmm. And they use a lot of CGI elements with the vehicles and the mecha suits. Like we were talking about, the mecha suits are crazy. And I really love the 3D elements. I think it's just so fun. And they're able to do so many cool shots with it. The rest of it, of course, is traditional hand-drawn 2D animation by Studio Mir. I saw that there could be up to 15,000 drawings per episode.
Okay.
So think about that.
Oh, I'm thinking about it.
Crazy stuff, guys. And I love the 3D elements too. I think it merges most of the time really, really well. And there's one scene in particular, and I think it might just be season 1 because it's Tarlok. Tarlok, kidnaps Korra, brings her into this metal box or whatever, and then Amon comes to take her, or his goons come to take her, and she does this thing where she earth bends the ground and it ripples, she creates a ripple of earth, right? Which that is CG, and it's done, and it's it's just so cool, and and then you see all the specks coming up out in her face, and that these 3D spec things, and it's just so good. It's just moments like that where I'm yee, animation.
Yes.
It's so good.
Yeah, I geek out on the bending in general in this show because the animation is so beautiful. Fun fact, am a choreographer, and watching all these fight sequences is I'm on the edge of my seat. My roommate will tell you how much I verbally process during the fight scenes because they're just so beautiful. Okay, I'm a firebender, and I still am every time Mako fights, I'm oh, I'm ready because the fire is so beautiful, and the flow, the movement of their moves, or Kai's choreography is always so amazing to watch.
Yes,
I'm in love with how the animation brings those fighting styles to life. It is my favorite thing to watch. I love it.
Absolutely, and that's a really good point. Studio Mir was involved in pre-production and storyboarding on top of animation, which is somewhat unusual. Most of that pre-production stuff happens, at the studio that it's being, commissioned from. So in this case, Nickelodeon rather than Studio Mir. So I thought that was really fascinating. But because of that, because they were a part of the process more, they were actually able to influence the choreography and the martial arts that this show is known for. Because they just, have so much more expertise in that area. And a lot of their artists do. And so it's very clear that, Studio Mir just, blows me away with this. Absolutely. This show is worth watching, I think, genuinely, just for the, fight scenes alone.
Yeah.
They're beautiful.
Take the end of season 4 when all of the airbenders are doing their battle plan against the mecha suit. All of them working together and then blasting air at the same time is just, it's so fun. Yes. I'm like, yes, go, go, go.
Go, go, go. And like I mentioned before, these writers really love car chases. But they're good car chases because it's car chase, but with bending.
Yes.
And it's they're shooting things from the car. They're creating ramps for themselves. They're doing all this crazy stuff. And it's just really fun to watch. It's so fun to watch. This show is fun to watch.
Hey guys, this show is fun to watch. It really is though. It's amazing.
It is. Truly. Truly.
I geek out every time.
Some other production stuff. We had mentioned about season 4, that random filler episode called Remembrances. Let's get back to that a second. Because as much as I love season 4, I love everything except for that episode, which again, I skipped.
I watched it because it was a little comedic with the commentary.
That's true. It's got...
Especially when Prince Wu is talking to Mako and be like, why'd you do that, man?
Yes. And then it's why did you do that, dude? But apparently Nickelodeon cut the budget for the amount of about 1 episode. And instead of displacing a whole bunch of staff, they basically decided to just create this filler episode out of material that they had already on hand. Which is an interesting... It's interesting to think about because, what would you do in that situation? Would you choose, to keep people on staff, or would you choose to create the story you want to create? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because part of me is oh, that totally makes sense. You don't want to have to, get rid of some creative staff. But then again, that's kind of the nature of animation is that it's, they work on a project and then they move to another project. They're always moving to projects anyway. It's not like you're removing some tenured person from a career,
Right.
And then you're removing part of the story you want to create that is now there forever. That is now what The Legend of Korra season 4 is, and you can't change it. So I could never make that decision.
All I know is that one of my roommates was watching the show on and off with me, and then she was there for that episode and was like, well, because you missed all the other episodes, here you go. Here's a recap.
Well, at least it was useful for her.
Yeah, but it's kind of pointless otherwise.
Otherwise, it's very pointless. I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering this right, that everyone was really mad about it when it came out, because you're in the middle of this very intense story, and then and like we said, every episode, there's no other filler episodes at all,
right.
ever.
So it's it doesn't make sense.
They just cut you off like this, and it's dude, why? I also want to mention, this is the big thing that everybody mentions when they talk about The Legend of Korra compared to After Last Airbender. They're like, oh, well, it sucks because Eren Ehas wasn't a part of it, blah, blah, blah. And here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. Eren Ehas was the head writer of After Last Airbender. He is a phenomenal writer. He is great. Okay? I'm not denying that. But what I am going to say is that animation is such a cooperative, collaborative, creative process that I cannot sit here and tell you that just one person is going to make that big of a difference. Obviously, his voice wasn't there. He wasn't there to lead the writers in a cohesive way, and I do think it makes a difference. Like, definitely, absolutely. I think that he had a pivotal part to play in Avatar: The Last Airbender, and like he clearly is a genius. Watch The Dragon Prince.
Yes.
But to say that, like, I don't know. I just, like, you can't pin it all in one person. And, like, The Legend of Korra is different, but it has different people working on it. So it's different.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that because so many people do. And so I just want to, like, agree and also disagree just a little bit. Like, yes, Aaron Ehas, like, has a very strong voice. And it is clearly missing in The Legend of Korra, but also, yeah, there are lots of new voices, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. So
right, I think overall, for those who haven't seen this, you will enjoy it a lot more if you go into it with the eyes of its own story, rather than comparing it to Avatar.
I would agree. I would say it's easier to watch after you give Avatar: The Last Airbender a little space. Like, give it a little space. Do you miss the world a little bit? Okay, here we go. New story, new show, new everything. It's new.
But what is so refreshing at the same time is that they still do bring back some of the old characters to make your heart warm inside.
Yeah, and it does create some nostalgic elements. And so I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the characters coming back? So in The Legend of Korra, we get Katara, Zuko, and Toph.
And Iroh, in the spirit world.
And we get Uncle Iroh. We get Sokka, like, in a backflash, like, but that doesn't count.
Really count.
It doesn't really count. So what are your thoughts on those interactions with them?
I really loved seeing them because I just love those characters, but I'm not sure that they were totally necessary for the plot at hand. Like, yes, they were very influential, but, you know, their own children are their legacies, and those children speak to Korra, like Toph's daughters, for example. They speak into Korra's life. But I did really love how Toph was like a sage to Korra in the swamp. That was a delight, because I feel like that's the age that Toph was meant to be ever since she was little.
I would agree.
So it was really fun. But, like, I didn't understand the need for Zuko as much as, you know, I love Zuko. I didn't understand the need for him to be there. Iroh kind of made sense. Like, he's wandering the spirit world, and helps her out on her journey. But I just don't feel like Uncle Iroh is connected to Korra as much. So, like, why is he a mentor for her?
Yeah.
So, anyway, those are my thoughts.
I would agree. I feel, like I had said previously, when these characters return, they are solely for the nostalgic purposes and not for any real reason. And the problem with that is that this is such a new story, and it's so different from Avatar: Last Airbender that bringing them back just hurts more. Like, it just reminds you how different it is, and it takes me out of it.
Yeah, I think we would have enjoyed it more if, like, all of the old characters were just in flashbacks.
I would agree. Yes, absolutely. Because, like you said, we get a lot of this history, a lot of this nostalgic connection through their children. So I don't feel the need to see the actual characters, especially when, again, I don't feel like they are, you know, they are, I mean, everyone's different people at different stages of their lives. But, you know, I feel like Katara and Zuko especially are not, like, portrayed as well. But I will say, out of all of them, Toph was my favorite.
Yes. Toph was the most like herself.
Yeah, she was the most like herself, most like you remember her. And one of the first things she says is, "Hey, Twinkle Toes." And I'm just like, yeah,
right.
That's my girl. And she's, yeah, basically this rough therapist for Korra. And it's so good.
Yeah.
Again, I would have rather them not be a part of the story at all, because it just hurts more when you see them rather than feeling that connection of, "Aw, I'm just sitting there going, why am I not watching Avatar: Last Airbender? Because I like them."
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. But it is what it is. They're there.
They are there.
They're there.
There's nothing we can do about it.
Nope.
Similar to the romance in the story.
Girl.
I already
Emma?
jumped overboard.
Emma, tell us. I'm even afraid to ask, but tell us about the ships, Emma. Captain Emma. What are we looking at here?
It's a stormy forecast, folks.
Yikes.
I
Choppy
just want to
waters
cry. I mean, y'all know by now that I am quite the romantic. But wow, these frustrate me a lot. And I don't know if that's because they're more realistic or if they're just teenagers. So,
yes.
Oh my, wow. Well, let's see. We've got Mako and Asami, Mako and Korra. Oh man, that whole thing, frustration up the wazoo. Okay, we've got Bolin and Opal, Bolin and Eska, Bolin and kind of Ginger.
I guess it could
Bola's
count.
attempt at Korra.
Yeah.
And then we've got let's see, Kai and Janora. That is a redeeming one. I'm all for that. Kai and Janora, bless your souls. See, the kids got it figured out. It's the adults that can't get their stuff together.
So true.
And then we've got Varric and Julie, which is they are great.
Gold.
They are dream team. And also I just want to honor Tenzin and Pema's relationship. They're just so great.
Pema is amazing.
They're perfect parents. I love them.
Oh, absolutely precious.
So, those are all the ships I'm going to talk about because otherwise I'll be exhausted.
Although you missed a big one. Korra and Asami.
Oh, see, that one is so startling to me because, like, I totally, like, see it at the end, but it's, like, so unexpected that I'm like, wait, what? You know what I mean?
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. Let's just start with that and then and get this big one out of the way. It's one of those things that I too, when I first watched it, like, it feels out of nowhere. Like, Korra and Asami don't really get to have much of a closer relationship, I feel, until season 4. Like, there are some things that I think indicate that stronger relationship between them. But again, there's so much happening in these. I mean, it's so odd whenever there's romantic relationships in the show. But then with Korra, like, listen, this was like 2014 and it's like not common. This was honestly one of the first times that I saw, me personally, I don't know what the history is on this, but like any sort of major animation studio even hint at any sort of LGBTQ plus relationship at all. And and they didn't even do anything. Like, all they do at the very end of the last episode is they hold hands and then they stand together like Varric and Julie do during the wedding ceremony. Like, they stand
they're going into the like spirit world, because they're like, we need a vacation.
Right. And so they're indicating that, yes, Korra and Asami are together. And when I researched this, like, the creators, they were not expecting to be able to get anything out of the execs for this. Like, they were just hoping to get like anything at all. And so so that they were able to do both the hand holding and the standing together. That was the limit to what Nickelodeon was willing to do at the time. Because it's one of those things where it was kind of like one of the first steps into LGBTQ plus representation in animation, they weren't sure that they could do it. So of course, like, it feels like it comes out of nowhere because they weren't sure if they could even make it a thing. You know what I mean? And so then in some ways, and this is how I've reconciled it in my own mind. Like originally watching it, I'm just upset because it's like, come on, give us like more of a reason for this to be there. But then part of me is also like, well, someone's got to make that first step so that other shows can do more. You know what I mean? And build up to it. And so even though it feels out of nowhere, like at least it was a step, and it was a big, even though it seems small, it's like they hold hands for 2 seconds. It was a big step in that representation.
Yeah. I just think like as a story, like it was definitely like not believable because you're like, I would agree. Oh, what?
Yeah, you're
we're
like,
holding hands now. Wait,
huh? What just happened?
But yeah, so there's that one, and then I think the most annoying relationship for me was Mako Korra, Mako Asami, just because
anything with Mako.
Yeah, basically, Mako, I love you, but I hate you at the same time. Like he was just, he would literally, he never broke up with. Okay, he broke up one time, but like, oh gosh. Okay, so he would be dating Asami, then he would kiss Korra, and then then we just have to assume in the next episode when Korra and Mako are together that suddenly, like they're together and Mako and Asami broke up, but there was no like definite breakup. So poor Asami's just like, I guess we're broken up now. Goodbye, and she's just a trooper the whole way. Well,
oh yeah.
Same thing, like, Mako and Korra break up, and then Asami get together, like, after a week. And I'm like, dude, take some time. Like, jeez. And then, like, Korra loses her memory and kisses him. And then Asami's like, great, I guess we're broken up again because you like Korra. And you're like, I can't. It's just stressful. So I think that's why, like, you know, Jinora and Kai, I love them because they're like Aang and Katara, just nice and simple, like perfect for each other. Or like Pema and Tenzin, they're just so loving parents and want the best for their kids, and they're so good to each other. I'm like, those are the ships that keep me going, but everything else, I'm like, get me out of here.
Oh, yeah. It's like the teenagers are a mess. They all date each other at some point, basically. Yes. And it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like they're just having relationships there for there to be relationships. Like everything feels so forced, and I hate all of it.
And even like, I could totally see the Mako and Korra relationship. Like they had a connection for sure. But like, eventually when they do break up, like they still like kiss each other and then are like, this isn't gonna work, but I will always love you. And you're like, why would you say that? Like, that's not gonna help. Like
these writers don't know how to write romantic relationships. That's all it is to it. It's like, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It's just a mess.
So thank you, Kai and Jinora, for being great human beings.
Truly, Kai and Jinora save it. Even though, again, it's like, this story doesn't even have time for romantic relationships. Why are they trying? Because even with Kai and Jinora, like, it's sweet and innocent and cute, and they barely have any screen time together because, like, there's so much going on.
But, like, I mean, you know, there's joy in romance, so we got to find the joy in the little things, like, in the midst of all the chaos, right? So. True. And then shout out to Eska and Bolin because, you know.
I was just about to say, don't forget our main man, Bolin. I love him and Eska together because it's absolutely hilarious. Like,
she's so dark and sinister, and he's so positive.
It's such a fun dynamic. And, like, she is pretty domineering. But, like, he also wants to be protected by her. Like, there are moments where that is the case, and there's like that give and take. But I mean, ultimately, like, no, I don't think they're perfect for each other. I just really loved that dynamic of them, and it was hilarious to watch. Like, my favorite part of season 2, honestly.
I also love that he actually cares for her. Like, a lot of people think like, oh, he's scared of her. But there is a moment where, like, when he and Eska have to part ways, he like tears up, and you're like, it was real to him. Y'all were fooled.
And I feel like if the writers had wanted to, they could have made it work. But I think part of it was that Eska was no longer going to be part of the story, and so they had to get rid of her.
Yeah. Goodbye, my feeble turtle duck.
Oh my gosh, it's so cute. I love it. Okay, I am a fan. I'm a big fan of them. I'll admit it. And listen, like, Opal is probably a better choice for him, maybe, but also I don't really love Opal as much.
I don't either. I mean, I think they're better for each other in the end, but like, there just wasn't enough content.
No.
To their relationship.
Again, it's just like they always have to have a relationship, and it's like, calm down, like, people, like, it's just like they meet each other for like 2 seconds and he is like flirting with her, and it's like, okay, calm down.
Calm down.
But Opal, I feel like as a character in general is just very meh. Like, she's not very interesting. So
sadly,
sorry, Opal. Oh, and then we got to end with the second best after Jinora and Kai relationship, Varric and Julie.
Oh, yes. Golden team right there.
Oh, I love them so much.
And I love that Varric proposes to her in the last episode. It's like the cutest thing ever. Will you do the thing forever?
Forever. And it's so cute because like Julie is doing all these things for him, and then eventually actually speaks her mind and is like, no, you have to start treating me like an equal, and I'm not going to be around unless you treat me well, and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, girl, and speak up for yourself. And then he's like oblivious and he doesn't understand anything. And it's so funny. It's so cute. I love it so much. I just love their dynamic. And
yes. They're partners in crime, you know?
They're partners in crime, and she does so much for him, and just like she just like puts up with him. It's so great.
And he depends on her for like so much of his work.
Yeah. It's like, who's actually wearing the pants in this relationship? Like, you'd think it would be Varric, but no, it's Julie. Julie's doing everything.
Julie.
Oh man, I love them so much. So this is definitely a wild ride for romantic relationships, for all those ships. Those ships are crazy.
Yeah, I might just want to take a day on land. Just rest it out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'll stop now.
No, I love your puns. They're great. Anything else about The Legend of Korra?
Those are the bulk of my notes, but I just really enjoyed watching this a second time. So for those who are hesitant because they've heard a bad rap about it, I would really encourage you to watch it anyway, because it is really good. Like, yeah, we've talked about its downfalls, but overall, it's a very enjoyable show. Great characters, super fun. Gotta love the Airbender family that gets you through. And it's also just very raw and emotional, and kind of taps into that darker side of humanity compared to Avatar, which I think is really powerful as well.
Absolutely. It definitely deals with some really mature themes, just like Avatar Last Airbender does. And it is a phenomenal watch. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. It's beautifully put together, even if maybe sometimes the writing could use some work. And I would argue, like, yes, this is not going to be Avatar Last Airbender. Just know that. Accept that. Because this is not Aang's story. This is Korra's. And Korra does things her own way.
Oh, yes, she does. She is her own Avatar.
She is, indeed. Well, thank you, Emma, so much for talking about The Legend of Korra with me. We're going to go record our What You're Watching episode, which you will be able to hear in a few days, guys.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. This was super fun.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Remember that you can get an exclusive new Fanimated sticker and vote for upcoming episode topics by going to patreon.com/Fanimated. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Fanimated Podcast to stay up to date with all things animated. And don't forget to leave a rating and review telling us what you'd like us to watch next. The music is provided by Purple Planet Music, and the art is done by myself. You can find me on Instagram at CandorDraw. That's KANDERDRAW. Thank you to Emma for geeking out about Korra with me today, and make sure to check back in with us on Friday as we have a lot to say about the current Fruits Basket season. In the meantime, stay tuned and stay animated.
I just have to cough. Okay, I'm ready now.
What are we talking about? Animation. That is what this podcast is about, isn't it?
Yes, animation. Woohoo!
Okay.